Time now for Michigan's #1 outdoor radio show, Mike Avery's Outdoor Magazine. Outdoor Magazine is brought to you by Jay Sporting Goods, the Yider Insurance Group, Angler Quest Pontoons and Polarcraft Boats, The Forward Corporation, Primal Tree Stands, Shadow Hunter Blinds, Security Credit Union, Garber Chevrolet, and by Michigan Brand Meats. Now, here's Mike Avery.
Well, thank you, Ken Hunter, for that introduction, and welcome to another edition of Outdoor Magazine right here on the Outdoor Magazine radio studio. So glad to have you along with us as we celebrate springtime in the great outdoors here in the great state of Michigan. The calendar is officially springtime now, but boy, Mother Nature sure knows it too, doesn't she? At least in my part of the state. I walked outside this morning, and it was the first time we've had any rain for a while. I walked outside this morning, and the smell is what got me. It smelled like springtime. It smelled like rain. It smelled like clean. It smelled like new. Smelled like night crawlers. I'll be honest with you, that's the smell that came to my mind. When I smelled it, I said, night crawlers. A nice warm rain is going to bring up night crawlers. Now, it's kind of a little bit too early to be looking for night crawlers, or is it? I feel like we're about 2 weeks ahead. I feel like springtime is about 2 weeks ahead this year. What are your thoughts on that? But to me, it feels like we're a little bit ahead, maybe as much as 2 weeks. But I remember as a kid going out, and smelling that smell and picking up night crawlers to go trout fishing. Now and then the trout season was what, the last Saturday in April? It still is, but that we couldn't trout fish before then. So that was like an unofficial holiday. I don't use night crawlers these days. You know that. I don't use them for walleye, although I know they're a very effective bait. I just choose not to. People say, why are you so self-righteous and why are you getting down on the people who use night crawlers? I'm not. I'm just saying I choose not to use them because I just as soon catch fish on plastic and metal. I'm not making a judgment call here. Relax, people. Take a big, deep breath. Because you or I choose to do things in a different way, in a different manner, doesn't mean I'm right, doesn't mean you're wrong, doesn't mean I'm wrong, doesn't mean you're right. It doesn't mean anything like that. And I'll carry it over into many things in the outdoors. For example, if you're fishing Lake Erie or the Detroit River this spring and you catch a 10-pound female walleye full of eggs and you choose to keep that fish, it's okay. It's fine. Biologically, you're not going to hurt the resource. Now, if you did that on an inland lake in northern Michigan, yes, it would be a different situation. Or if somebody chooses to hunt deer with a crossbow and they're doing it legally within the season during legal hours, it's okay. Just because you choose not to hunt with a crossbow doesn't mean that they're doing it is somehow negatively impacting you. It's all right. Or if I choose to hunt coyotes, if I choose to run coyotes or bears with hounds, but you don't want to, it's okay. It's fine. In today's world, it seems to be, I'm right, you're wrong, period, end of discussion. Well, it's not the end of the discussion, especially in the outdoors. And this is something that I am very, very concerned and very passionate about these days. We need to stay together as an outdoor community and support each other and back each other up. If what somebody is doing in the outdoors, whether it's fishing or hunting or trapping or shooting or whatever, I don't care. If it's legal, it's okay with me. I'm not going to try to mandate my morals or my ethics to you. And you don't dare to try to do it to me because I'm not going to listen to you. We need to have each other's back. And in the outdoors, and especially online these days, it's so easy to try to tear down other groups or other individuals, and the time for that has passed, in my not-so-humble opinion. But I did get a little bit off track there. I was talking about springtime, about the smells, the sights, the sounds, the red-winged blackbird, the geese honking. Oh, my goodness. The pond behind the house is absolutely overrun with geese this spring. And again, how do I think of geese? I think of geese as giant flying rats. They're seagulls on steroids. I used to like geese. I still like to see geese flying and honking. They're beautiful animals, just not in my backyard. They're just dirty, loud, noisy, obnoxious, blatant, brazen critters. And every spring, well, not spring, every summer, I put up a fence, just a 2-foot snow fence to keep them out of the yards. Because they'll come up out of the pond and they'll make a mess all over everything and they become very aggressive and I just don't like them anymore. And because I live just in the city, there's only so much I can do. It's only so much I can do to discourage them from visiting our yards. But this year, by the time you hear this show, I think I'll have the fence up already, which is way early. Everything's early this year, right? And I know it's a 2-foot fence. Avery, do you know geese can fly? Yes, I do know geese can fly. And the geese know they can fly too. But for some reason, they won't fly over that little 2-foot barrier. So it works very, very well. Speaking of springtime, I've actually seen a picture. It was posted to the Mike Avery Outdoors Facebook page of the first morel of the season. Now, it was very small, and it was only one, but the first morel of the season. And this warm rain should get things going. Now, granted, it's early, but like I've been saying, everything seems to be early this year. Some blatant self-promotion here because it's raising money for a good cause. Online right now, if you go to bidnow.us, there's an online auction for the proceeds to my church's parochial school, Trinity Monitor, Lutheran in Bay County. I'm giving away a walleye fishing trip on Saginaw Bay aboard the Angler Quest for 4 fishermen with me. That ends Tuesday, the 30th, I think. So if you are interested and would like to go fishing and the money's for a good cause, I don't get a dime of it. Love to have you make a bid on this. Go to bidnow.us. Look for the walleye fishing trip. I think it's item number 46 or number 47. And feel free to make a bid on that. I'd love to have you go along with me. Hopefully, I'll have a boat by then. I'm starting to wonder if maybe I made a mistake by giving up my boat last year and selling it. Because it's hard to get boats right now. It's hard to get, and even if you can get a boat, it's almost impossible to get a motor. So if you're in the market for a boat or a camper or an ATV or an RV or anything that is outdoor related this spring, if you're in the market and you're looking, my advice is if you find something close to what you're looking for at a dealership and you want one for the summer, buy it. Just buy it. Because you're probably not going to find another one. Boat manufacturers right now are building boats for delivery in September, some of them. Or later. And the motors, oh my goodness. There is such a shortage on outboard motors right now. It is absolutely crazy. So there's a shortage of ammo. There's a shortage of guns. There's a shortage of boats. There's a shortage of motors. There's a shortage of hunting gear. Because of all this renewed interest in the outdoors, more people getting out and enjoying God's creation. Plus, you had COVID shutting things down earlier in the year. The supply has the demand has far outweighed the supply right now. So if you find something, get it. Unless you're willing to wait a while. I'm hoping I'm not waiting too much longer. What else? I have been shooting my recurve, getting ready for the springtime turkey season. And I'm actually quite surprised. I hadn't shot in several months, and I'm finding it's kind of like it's a skill. Well, in my case, I don't know if it's a skill or not, but it's a skill. It's kind of like riding a bike. It's like once you get the hang of it, it seems to come back pretty fast. It took me about a dozen arrows to feel like I was starting to get to where I was shooting pretty good again. And for the most part, the arrows go where I want them to go. And as I've talked about before, my form is not textbook, and I don't care. As long as the arrows go where I want. I'm doing a Facebook Live right now. Lance Valentine of Walleye 101 is on with me, and he says fishing electronics and gear, that pipeline is empty too. And it goes into the hunting industry. Now, I've actually heard that there are containers full of material and equipment sitting in containers on boats offshore, and they just can't get them in. I don't know what that's about. I'm still trying to figure out more. And I hope that's not just a rumor, but I've heard this from people in the industry, manufacturers telling me that. Coming up on this week's Outdoor Magazine show, after the break, we're going to talk with Keith Shafer, who is the president of the Michigan Bear Hunters Association. A lot of proposed changes coming up in bear hunting in Michigan. Then Matt Pedigo from the Michigan Wildlife Council. His term is ending. We'll talk with him. In hour number 2, Glen Duncan talks about patterning your turkey shotgun. Can you even get ammo to do that these days? Nick Green from MUCC checks in. This week's Ask Avery segment talks about turkey seasons in Michigan. And in hour number 3, we're talking about southern Michigan trolling for salmon and trout with Russ Clark of SeaHawk Charters. And, of course, wild game chef extraordinaire Dave Miner wraps it all up. That's this week right here on Outdoor Magazine. You can hear the Outdoor Magazine show in Alpena on WZTK. That's 105.7 FM. You can hear us in St. Joe on WSJM 94.9 FM. And you can hear us north of the bridge in Newberry on WNBY 1450 AM. This segment of Outdoor Magazine is brought to you by Boning Archery. Michigan-based Boning has been a leader in the archery industry since 1946, when Roland Boning invented ferrule-tite to glue broadheads to arrows. At the time, of course, those arrows were wood shafts, maybe fiberglass, I don't know. But ever since then, Boning has continued to come up with new products, continued to innovate, continued to serve the needs of target archers and bow hunters here in Michigan and beyond. And the really cool thing is that in 2021, their 75th anniversary. Congrats to everybody at Boning. Now, they had a bunch of things scheduled, a bunch of celebration, a bunch of get-togethers, and they can't do some of them, of course. Maybe by later in the year they will be able to. But for now, keep an eye on the website, boning.com, B-O-H-N-I-N-G, boning.com, to learn more about this Michigan-based company, their 75th anniversary, the products that they have. They make everything for bows and arrows except bows and arrows. And actually, I think they're making some anniversary arrows, so I can't even say that anymore. Great Michigan company, Boning Archery, boning.com. If you have been with me before on the show, you know that I absolutely love bear hunting. If you told me, Avery, you will never be able to hunt deer again, but you'll be able to get a bear tag every year, I'd say, okay, no problem. There's something about bear that absolutely fascinate me. I don't know if it's because, you drive down the road, you can see deer anywhere, right? But you don't see as many bear, although the range is expanding. But there's something about sitting in a blind out in the middle of nowhere and having an animal come in that is black and beautiful and silent. I'm absolutely in love with bear hunting. Keith Shafer is the president of the Michigan Bear Hunters Association. Their website, mibearhunters.org, joins me now on the Outdoor Magazine phone line because there are some things in the news regarding bear hunting. There are some proposals, and of course, bear hunting is under, I don't want to say under attack, but a lot of people would like to get rid of bear hunting. Keith, welcome to the show. How are you?
I'm well, Mike. How are you?
I'm doing just great. Thanks for joining me today.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, listen, the pleasure is mine. Yeah, listen, I could talk bear hunting all day long, but you know that.
Right.
So what's going on in the bear hunting world these days? I keep hearing some talk of proposed changes for the season coming up. What's going on, Keith?
A lot of the proposed changes are just mainly in the number of bears in the take. The DNR would like to increase the take in the lower, and a couple small ways in the upper, and a couple units. And then the DNR would like to really get rid of the barrels on state land. Pretty much the two big things going on right now.
I also, even in a little more in depth, aren't there something about the size of the holes in the barrels too?
Well, I know it's been brought up that some people would like to make the holes bigger, but the whole premise of the hole size in the barrel was to eliminate the chance of anything getting stuck in the barrel. So if there was a bigger hole in the barrel that, say, maybe a bear could get a paw in or a head in, then the bear could possibly get stuck in it, right? So
Gotcha.
The 1-inch hole really eliminates that. And the other thing it does is the 1-inch hole allows people to use the barrel in areas where baiting is prohibited for cervids. So CWD areas, TV areas, stuff like that. So basically the whole lower, and then even in the one CWD area in the western UP. And being that barrels are such a great tool to eliminate wolf conflict, it should be pretty important to keep that in the UP.
Tell me more about that. Eliminate wolf conflict. I'm not following you there, Keith.
So barrels, with the barrels mainly we use grains, and with that also there's just nothing left over for anything to get at. And so in studies that the original Wolf Roundtable did, they found that barrels were really the most effective way of eliminating wolf conflict in a bear bait situation. And they felt so strongly about that they put that in part of the wolf management plan, the old wolf management plan. Now, I don't know if they're going to do that in the new plan or what their idea is there, but it just really eliminates wolves being on your bait site. So
Gotcha.
if you think of an open bait with sweets and meats and stuff like that, that's pretty inviting to a wolf. And once a bear opens that, it's open for everybody, right? And it's there for everything to take. But with a barrel, the bear shakes it, it falls out, the bear eats it. If there's a couple kernels of corn or granola left, then the squirrels and birds clean it up right away, and then it's a clean site again.
Gotcha. Yeah, I actually saw that on my bear bait last fall. We had meat and sweets on there, and it was common to get wolves on the trail cam as well. So yeah, I see what you're saying.
Yeah, and when you have wolves, you don't have bears because bears don't like wolves, right?
Bears don't like wolves, or wolves don't like bear? Which is it?
I would say bears don't like wolves.
Hey, in the past,
wolves like bears a lot.
Well, yeah, good point. Especially the little juicy, tender ones, right?
Exactly.
Hey, in the last few years, Keith, Michigan Bear Hunters has come out and said that something that actually surprised me, that you did not want to see more bear tags issued in Michigan. Why was that? So,
the issue with the bear tags is pretty simple. When we went through a period from like 2001 to 2011, the DNR allowed the harvest of between 2,000 to 2,500 bears a year. And so what we found through there, and what we said quite a bit, was that we were seeing a really negative impact in the bear population. I mean, we have to remember that, a bear only produces every 2 years, right? If a sow's born this year, she doesn't produce till she's 3, and then every 2 years after that. So we don't reproduce like deer or things like that. So we really kind of have to pay attention a little bit. And so what we saw was our population of bears in Michigan really plummeted. And this caused, in 2012-ish, 13, we ended up with about 45% decrease, 50% decrease in tags in the northern lower, and around a 30% decrease in the UP to try to bring the bear population back to where it needed to be. And as the Michigan bear hunters, our stance really is that we really need to maintain under 1,700 bears harvested in Michigan a year to maintain a healthy bear population throughout Michigan. And unfortunately, that does cause some issues with conflict, with human conflict and bears getting garbage or, people just seeing bears in places they haven't. But I think there's some things we could maybe do to help eliminate that as well.
And we are seeing bears in places that we haven't in past years. I live in the central part of the state, and it's common now to have bears wandering around. They're certainly expanding their range to the south, and I would think that's an indication of a good, healthy population.
I agree, and it's nice to see. It's really nice to see, and the healthier we get the population, and it's a slow road. I don't think it's something we can shoot up in 4 years or 5 years and say, oh, now we can just raise the tags back to 2,000 bears a year. I think it's a slow process, and I think that with that, I think the whole state is, not the whole state, but a lot of the state is going to have to learn to live with bears that never had to live with bears before. And so I think education would help with that. But in turn, at that point, then we could start raising tag numbers.
And that's an interesting point. You get people in the UP or even the northern lower, they're used to being around bears. They know there are bears in the woods behind the house or the back 40 or whatever. In the southern part of the state, I talk to people all the time when I say, we got bears here in the county. In fact, several of them, they get real nervous. Oh my gosh, we got bears? Well, I can't let the dogs out. I can't let the cats out. I can't go for a walk in the woods. And the people downstate just aren't used to living with bears yet.
That is true. I've had people call and say, hey, I've got a problem. And what's that? Well, I saw a bear behind my house. That's a problem.
That's not a problem. That's cool.
No, it's not going to eat your dog. It's not going to come through your door. It's probably been there for months before you saw it. Everything's fine.
Yeah, and that, I was talking earlier about we see deer all the time. Anywhere in Michigan, you can drive down a road at dusk or dawn, you're going to see deer. We don't see as many bear, but that doesn't mean they're not there. You could have a bear living in the 40 behind the house or wandering through there for a long time and not even know it.
Exactly. Yeah, bears have poor eyesight, excellent hearing, excellent smell, and they don't want to be around people. They want to be left alone. They want to be where they live, and they don't want people to bother them. And they only come in contact with humans mainly just by happenstance. They definitely don't plan it.
Yeah, they're not.
People would be surprised if they knew how many bears moved up and down the lake shore through towns and cities all the time that they just don't see.
Yeah. And they're not grizzlies, they're black bears. We're talking with Keith Shafer of the Michigan Bear Hunters Association. He's the president of the group. mibearhunters.org is the website, mibearhunters.org. We got to take a break here in the Outdoor Magazine show. When we come back, I want to wrap up our conversation with Keith. I want to talk a little bit more with him about bears, about bear hunting here. What does the future hold in store? There are people who would love to see a springtime Michigan bear hunt. But if Keith is saying we need to knock the numbers of tags down, does his group support that or not? And he was out west. Charlie, is my timer off? It is off? Oh, it should be 13 minutes. All right. Yeah, I screwed up my times there a little bit. I started the wrong clock, so I apologize to Keith for that. But, I absolutely love bear hunting. I love the animals. They're beautiful. They are mysterious. They are majestic. Any opportunity I have to bear hunt, I take advantage of it. But I'm not out there necessarily to kill a bear. I have seen so many different bears while hunting that I didn't shoot. The mark of a successful hunt is not necessarily taking an animal. It's just out there enjoying the experience, being around those animals, seeing those animals. I hope I can get a bear tag this fall in Michigan. The odds are against me, but we'll give it a try. We'll take a break here in the Outdoor Magazine show. When we come back, wrap up our conversation with Keith Shafer of the Michigan Bear Hunters Association, mibearhunters.org. can hear the Outdoor Magazine show in Traverse City on WTCM. That's 580 AM. You can hear us in Sandusky on WMIC, AM and FM, 660 AM, 95.3 FM. And you can hear us north of the bridge in Marquette on WDMJ 1320 AM. This segment of Outdoor Magazine brought to you by Great Lakes Charter Training. This is how I got my captain's license, and I am convinced I would not have been able to do it without Captain Mel Stackpool and Captain John Littlefield of Great Lakes Charter Training. In fact, I just talked to a buddy of mine, too, who went through their classes as well. He heard about him. I was talking about him. He said, I'm going to give him a try. He just got his license and said the same thing. He couldn't have done it. It is a very daunting, very intense, very overwhelming experience, for me at least, but as it should be, because you don't want people out there with a license that aren't qualified. You don't want people out there running crazy on the Great Lakes, right? But if you want to be a charter captain, I'm convinced this is the way to go. Check out the website, glctraining.com. That's glctraining.com. Tell him Mike Avery suggested you give him a try, and I'm sure you'll be very happy. Hey, they guarantee you're going to pass the Coast Guard exam, and I could not have done it on my own. glctraining.com. While you're online, check out my website, MikeAveryOutdoors.com, and head on over to mibearhunters.org. That's the website of the Michigan Bear Hunters Association, a group that is actively involved in wildlife conservation, hunting issues. And Keith, I will give you guys credit for that. You are very much an active group. You're there in Lansing whenever you need to be. You're talking with people. You're lobbying the NRC, the DNR. So good for you.
Thanks. We try hard.
Well, if you don't do it, who's going to, right?
Yeah, it's true. And you know, it's like deer. Everybody's about deer. Not a lot of people understand bears or things like that, and so we really try to educate a lot of people on that.
Well, like you said, a lot of your job is education, because here in Michigan, everybody's a deer expert, right? Whether they are or not, they're deer experts. But thankfully not so. And that's one of the things I like about bear hunting is there's not the social pressure. There's not the shaming. You know, people enjoy going out bear hunting, and they congratulate every fellow hunter.
Yeah. Yes, that's true. And it's hard work. It's not easy. It's not easy at all.
Well,
whether you're running hounds or whether you're baiting, I mean, if you're baiting for your bear, I mean, that's a lot of work carrying stuff then, you know. But
I can't tell you the negative comments I get online, especially on YouTube, of my bear hunts that I post where I'm sitting in a blind, I'm waiting over a bait for hours and hours and hours, waiting for the right animal, passing up animals, maybe not even taking a shot. The people come out of the woodwork and say, Avery, that's not hunting. That's killing. Even if I didn't shoot a bear the entire season, that's not hunting. It's just a shame the way we, as an outdoor community, are turning against ourselves.
I totally agree. And I think that a lot of that comes from just perspective. Someone hasn't done it, and so they look at what the small bit of information they have, and then they make their own perspective about it, and that's what they hang their hat on. And they chastise people because they feel that's not what they would do. And it's a hard thing. I mean, if someone wants to go bait bears and sit in a tree with a bow, that should be great. Why not? What's wrong with that?
Why not?
You know, we've run across guys that do scent burns. If that's how you want to hunt, why shouldn't you be able to do that?
Yeah,
right.
Exactly.
I think people put too much emphasis on that and not the sport itself.
Yeah, and we see it in a lot of different things these days. Hey, will we ever have a spring bear hunt here in Michigan in the near future?
I don't believe so. And I say that for a couple of reasons. The biggest reason is that in the spring, bears are coming out and they're looking for food, right? They want to fill up what they lost. Baiting accounts for 80% of the bear harvest in Michigan, period, anyway. And then if you add that into the spring hunt, and into the spring, it would be extremely effective. So one of the and the reason what that is if you look at Canada has a spring hunt. Canada is a really big country. They have a huge population of bears, and they have very limited access. right? They don't have the access to land in places like we do here in Michigan. There's not a lot of places, even in the UP, where you can go more than 5 miles and not have a road somewhere. And so we can really get into these areas, and so what would happen is your success rate would really increase, and that your tag amount of tags they would issue would decrease significantly. And so even if you had a spring hunt, you'd have less opportunity for people in Michigan to hunt, because we'd be back to harvesting way too many bears.
No, I see what you're saying.
The bottom line of us is just the bear population. And we have to remember that the resource is always number one. And we really need to make sure we protect the resource with everything we do and every decision we make.
Keith, and it's comments like that make me respect what you guys are doing, that you're out there protecting the resource, you're promoting the resource. Keep up the good work. I'd send people to the website, mibearhunters.org, mibearhunters.org. Keith Shafer, appreciate your time. We'll talk again.
Thanks, Mike. Have a great day.
You as well. I will admit that I wasn't, when I first heard that the Michigan Bear Hunters wanted to decrease the number of tags, I was a little confused about it. I wasn't really in favor of it, but when you talk to Keith and he lays out, what the rationale is behind it, you've got to respect that. We'll take a break here in the Outdoor Magazine show. When we come back, Matt Pedigo, who for a long time, he's an avid bear hunter. He's also with the Michigan Wildlife Council. We'll talk with him as his term ends, coming up after the break right here on Outdoor Magazine. You can hear the Outdoor Magazine show in Battle Creek on WBCK. That's 95.3 FM. You can hear us in Sheboygan on Big Country Gold, WCBY, AM and FM, 1240 AM, 100.7 FM. And you can hear us in Flint on our newest affiliate, Sports Extra, 1330 WTRX. This segment of Outdoor Magazine brought to you by MUCC's On the Ground program. OTG is a program to improve habitat for fish and wildlife across the state. For details, check out the Michigan United Conservation Club's website, MUCC.org. That's MUCC.org. While you are online, please check out my website, MikeAveryOutdoors.com. I'm thinking about doing a drastic revamping of that website this summer. And it's not that old. We just did it a couple of years ago, but I feel like it needs to be freshened up. And then head on over to here for MIOutdoors.org. Here for MIOutdoors.org, the website of the Michigan Wildlife Council. Matt Pedigo, a member of that council. And he joined... Charlie, look at this. Sorry. He joins us now on the Outdoor Magazine phone line. Matt, welcome back. How are you?
Good, Mike. How are you?
I'm doing wonderful. Hey, remind me, you're the current chair of the council, right?
No, actually, I'm the past chair.
Past chair.
Yeah. So, Nick Bugia.
Nick. Okay, that's right.
Chair.
Yep.
Yeah.
And we've had both of you guys on several times, and you are now, Matt, just getting ready to wrap up your term on the council, right?
Yeah. So 7 years now I've been on the council, one of the last remaining original members. So I'll be done here, I think, beginning of April.
Wow.
So I really enjoyed my time, and it's been a great experience, and it's a great project, a great activity, a great program that's going on in the state to really try and educate everybody in Michigan about the value that hunters and fishers provide to the natural resources in the state of Michigan.
Do you feel like in your 7 years, do you feel like you guys accomplished what you wanted to? Did you reach that goal, or is that goal always out there ahead of you, continuing to move, if you will?
It definitely. There's moving goalposts, just in terms of our audience is always changing. The demographics are always changing, so we've always got to adopt our messaging, keep it fresh, keep it relevant to the audience we're trying to reach, which is everybody in Michigan. But in terms of outcomes, I think definitely our research that we've just completed. So we've completed 5 statewide research studies, and we're seeing a positive trend just in the number of people who approve of legal regulated hunting has increased, what I would say significantly, from the 40s, 47, 43% in 2015 and 2017. We're up to 55% now who strongly approve. So that's definitely showing a good trend. We're able to pull those people who might not understand the benefits that are provided by our activities as sportsmen and educate them as to why they should care and why they should support these types of activities, even if they never intend to participate in them.
Well, and as you and I have talked before, I think this is more important than ever because we want the Michigan population, whether they're non-hunters or not, to be educated on this, because as these issues come to the polls, and they will over the years, we want people to know and make an educated choice.
Correct. Yeah, and that's one of the things that we're really focusing on to make sure that they know that, the wildlife species, they need management in order to thrive. They need to be managed and maintained, and there needs to be regulated hunting, and regulated hunting, fishing, trapping are the best tools to be able to accomplish those tasks and be able to manage the wildlife species in an effective way.
So when you first got on the council, you had a certain idea of what it was going to be like, what the job was going to be like. Looking back on it now, was it like you thought? Was it different than you thought? Was it a bigger challenge than what you thought it was going to be?
It was, I would say it was a little different from the perspective of how much involvement as a council member you can have and really dig into the data and really provide feedback and directions with the ad agency, working with the state, working with the department, Kristen Phillips, and who's in charge of their marketing at the department. She's part of the council. Working with her was great and getting the feedback of what the department's experiences were. So I think how much involvement we could have in the process and giving feedback was exceptional, which when I first was asked to participate in the council, it seemed more administrative, but getting into it, our involvement was definitely key to help guide this and direct this. And also we received a lot of feedback from the sportsmen, which we were working on this for. They were funding it through the surcharge on hunting and fishing license sales of $1 of every license. So they were funding it. So taking their feedback, understanding where their concerns were, trying to incorporate that into what we were doing in our activities, to me was also essential in the process. So being able to be involved in that, I really enjoyed.
Well, and Matt, I have really enjoyed talking with you on the air here, and in fact in person several times over the last few years. So
likewise.
Thanks for everything that you've done for Michigan hunters and anglers. Thank you for your time on the Michigan Wildlife Council. And though we won't be talking on the air about this topic, I'm sure our paths will cross again, and I'll look forward to it.
Sounds great. Thanks, Mike.
All right. Matt Pedigo of the Michigan Wildlife Council, the website here for MIOutdoors.org, here for MIOutdoors.org. I wonder what Matt's going to do with all this free time now. Probably go hunting and fishing. We'll take a break for the top of the hour. When we come back, we're going to talk with Glen Duncan of Duncan's Outdoor Shop about patterning your turkey shotgun, Nick Green from MUCC with an update out of Lansing, and this week's Ask Avery segment talking about a split turkey hunting season. I didn't know there was one, coming up in hour number 2 of Outdoor Magazine.
Time now for Michigan's #1 outdoor radio show, Mike Avery's Outdoor Magazine. Outdoor Magazine is brought to you by J Sporting Goods, the Yider Insurance Group, Angler Quest Pontoons and Polarcraft Boats, The Forward Corporation, Primal Tree Stands, Shadow Hunter Blinds, Security Credit Union, Garber Chevrolet, and by Michigan Brand Meats. Now, here's Mike Avery.
Indeed, this is the big guy, Mike Avery. Thank you, Ken Hunter, for that introduction, and welcome to hour number 2 of this week's Outdoor Magazine show right here on the Outdoor Magazine Radio Network. The Outdoor Magazine Radio Network is, I would have to add them up, almost 30 AM and FM stations across the great state of Michigan. And I do think the best way to listen to the show, if you can, is, well, it's a radio show, so listen to it on your local AM or FM station. Your local stations have, local news and weather, sports, even commercials, ads. Maybe there's a sale you want to take advantage of. But if your local affiliate doesn't carry all 3 hours of the show, this is a 3-hour weekly outdoor radio show talking about hunting and fishing and shooting and trapping, wildlife and conservation issues, even some wild game cooking. If your local affiliate doesn't carry all 3 hours, or if you live in some part of our state not covered by the broadcast signal, you can always listen to the podcast version of the show. Where do you hear the podcast? I've talked about this before. Podcasting is like the buzzword of the last year, right? Podcast. Everybody's got a podcast. And I think that's great. I love podcasting. Podcasting allows people to get their content, to get their message, to get the word out without having to go through a radio studio and a broadcast studio and a satellite distribution system like we do for the radio show. So I love podcasting. Everybody has a podcast. Not everybody has an outdoor syndicated statewide radio show. But I make that show available as a podcast, and you can hear it on the website, MikeAveryOutdoors.com. MikeAveryOutdoors.com, a kind of a clearinghouse, an online clearinghouse, a source for all things Outdoor Magazine and Mike Avery Outdoors. I also put the podcast on my Mike Avery Outdoors Facebook page. It's on Amazon Music. It's on Audible, Twitter, LinkedIn, iTunes, Google Play, iHeartRadio, SoundCloud, Spotify, TuneIn, Stitcher, Player FM, Deezer, Radio.com, even YouTube. Anywhere you can get a podcast from, you can get the podcast version of the Outdoor Magazine radio show. I also do monthly podcasts for Jay's Sporting Goods, Offshore Tackle, Angler Quest Boats, Killer Food Plots, Polar Craft Boats, and Shadow Hunter Blinds. In fact, as we wrap up the radio show today, we will record this month's Polar Craft podcast with Lance Valentine of Walleye 101. Talking about Lake Erie and Detroit River walleye fishing, I'm sure. So look for that. Regardless, though, of where you are listening to my voice and when you are listening, thank you. I do certainly appreciate it. Your support over 40 years now of broadcasting has allowed me to be in this position, to do something that I truly love, something that I plan on doing for, God willing, many years into the future. So thank you for that. I do certainly appreciate it. I always say, it was cool to be able, when I had a TV show, to go all these really neat, exciting places. But I think what really stands out in my mind is the people that I've met over the years. I have had the opportunity to work with some top-notch, real quality people. And I consider Glen Duncan to be one of those people. Glen is he's a gunsmith. He's a shooting expert. His dad, Charlie, started Duncan's Outdoor Shop in Saginaw years ago. They moved it to Bay City. They now have the only indoor 200-yard range open to the public in the country. And he is intimately and actively involved in shooting, in fighting for gun rights, and everything shooting, everything hunting. And he's with us now on the Outdoor Magazine phone line. Glen, welcome back. How are you?
Thank you. Good morning or good afternoon. That's great. Just nice to hear 40 years and in business like yours and mine is 63 years old. And it's just the people that we've been with and you've been with and worked with. It's just been amazing.
It really is. And, the longer I'm in this, I think, and I don't pretend to be a business expert, but at my level, business is about relationships and establishing partnerships with the right people. And obviously, Glen, you've been able to do that over the years, or you wouldn't be where you're at.
Oh, I'm lucky that I was able to do that. And because of this time right now, what's going on with the COVID and everything else, and everybody's so low on ammo and guns and stuff, the manufacturers I talk to weekly, and they say, Glen, you've been in it long enough that we got to keep you going. And so we've been lucky. Yes. We still don't have enough of anything like everybody else. I just on the phone with Jeff up to Jay's and stuff, and we're all just trying to get more and more, and we spend more time right now working at just getting inventory and keeping the doors wide open.
You mentioned Jeff and the Poet family at Jay's. Of course, I work very closely with Jay's, but I find it interesting the relationship you have with the folks at Jay's, because from the outside, Glen, you would be a competitor of Jay's.
Yeah, we look at each other a lot, and we try to go and see where we can work together on projects and stuff, but also on pricing and stuff. We're not there to gouge. There's a lot of that going on. You talked about it in the radio in the past and stuff. And it just scares both of us, Jeff and I, and that we want to stay in business, and we want to make people happy and keep them shooting and stuff. So we're trying to keep that chain of going.
There was some blatant gouging early on in the ammo shortage on the price of retailers. And I said, look, if you find somebody gouging you, keep that in mind. And I wouldn't go back to them. But now the manufacturers actually have increased your prices. So prices have gone up across the board now, haven't they?
Yes. In fact, you picked a topic that just came over to my computer. I was just talking to my guys just a few minutes ago, and I can give you some numbers that the manufacturers have just decided. Primers, the one that everybody's talking the most about, and it looks like it's going to go about 25% this year, and that's just amazing, totally amazing.
Going up 25% the price.
Yep.
Okay.
And let me just trying to find them. I just had closed that one out on my computer. I'm just trying to find it real quick if I can. Rifle ammo, they're talking is going to go up between 10 and 15%. When we talk about hunting and rifle ammo, full metal jackets going up about 12%. 22 ammo is going up about 10%. Where else was it? And so, I mean, it's going to be big jumps, but it's not still these people that are selling a box of 9mm for $40 a box and $50 a box. That's gouging. It's just, and that's what we really hate to see.
Yeah, I do too. But people in today's world, some people are willing to pay those prices, Glenn, because they're afraid they won't. If they don't buy it at this price, they're just plain not going to be able to get it. They think.
Right. Well, I don't. As it's the political side this morning, listening to the news. Okay, we're going to throw that out of the picture totally right now because no one can predict what that's going on. But now with Remington in their production this last week, I've got a pallet of ammo in, and it was amazing to see green Remington boxes with CCI box and Federal all on the same pallet. In my lifetime, I said never would Remington. There's a company on their own. I'd get a pallet of Remington and I'd get a pallet of Federal and CCI. To see that in my lifetime, it's just amazed me that Vista that owns Federal and CCI bought Remington, and they're producing ammo as fast as they can right now. Last year with the COVID and last year with all the other problems Remington had with their lawsuits and stuff, they didn't build any ammo at all. And so now we have another manufacturer out there building ammo. Fiocchi is built the plant. It's finished now. They're making primers in the United States, in Arkansas. And so that's a great, because a lot of manufacturers, even your guys that are loading your own ammo and stuff, primers have just been ridiculous. And so with Fiocchi getting that primer machine up online and stuff, that's going to be great for all of us.
Well, you talk about Remington and such. A few weeks ago here on the show, I had Jason Vanderbrink on the show. And in fact, you're the guy who helped me find him because you've worked with him for years, since he was a local guy here in Michigan. And that goes back to this connection you're talking about. When you're in business as long as the Duncan family has been, you establish these relationships that maybe help you get product in times when other people can't.
It does help. I got to admit it.
Well, that's nothing to be ashamed of. I'd be proud of it.
Yeah, and it's good.
Hey, so listen, I got to take a break here in just a second. A couple of quick questions. Are the ranges open now? Can people come in and shoot?
Yes, they can.
And the ammo situation is fluid. It varies week to week, day to day even?
Day to day.
And what about the gun supply? Are you able to get anything at all?
Day to day. I mean, we're getting. This is just so sad. Like Smith & Wesson, there's $640,000 in back orders, and so they're shipping a gun, couple guns, 3 guns yesterday. Glocks, we got in a couple boxes of Glocks in and stuff. And we never know. It's like Christmas back here. All right. And,
the guys at Jay's told me the same thing. It's like we don't know what's coming, but it's like Christmas if there's something there.
Yeah, people call us up and say, well, when are they going to get it? And it's like, we don't know. when it comes in the door, we know we got it, and they don't call ahead of time. All of us have such a big order. When they say, what about ammo? There's not an ammo that I normally carry that is not on back order. And Hornet, $80-some thousand on back order. And so it's just, we're all just waiting, and they don't have the time to go and send me a notice that my job, if I want to cancel, I better do it before they get ready to ship it. And because their attitude is unless you say so, Glenn, we're going to get it.
We're going to get it. Hang tight, Glenn. Listen, got to take a break. We're talking with Glen Duncan of Duncan's Outdoor Shop in Bay City. The website, duncansoutdoor.com, duncansoutdoor.com. After the break, we'll get to the topic of patterning your turkey gun, which was the original subject. You can hear the Outdoor Magazine show in Caro on WKYO. That's 1360 AM. Also on WIDL 92.1 FM. You can hear us in Lansing on WILS 1320 AM. And in Iron Mountain, WMIQ 1450 AM. This segment of Outdoor Magazine is brought to you by Speedy Blaze. Speedy Blaze is a safe, clean, water-resistant, insect-resistant alternative to firewood, and it's safe to cook over because it's made from recycled hardwood. You can put it in your grill, you can put it in your campfire, you can put it in your fireplace, you can put it in your fire pit. That's where we burn ours. Easy to start, burns clean, burns hot, and burns completely. Does not leave any residue. Burns right down to just a little bit of ash. Really great Michigan-based company. You know I love that. Check them out online at speedyblaze.com. That's speedyblaze.com. While you're online, please check out my website, MikeAveryOutdoors.com, and then head on over to Duncan'sOutdoor.com. Duncan'sOutdoor.com, the website of Duncan's Outdoor Shop in Bay City. Gunsmithing services, indoor ranges. In fact, the only 200-yard indoor range open to the public in the country. Glenn, before we talk about patterning a turkey gun, I got to ask you one quick question. I see you were talking about Smith & Wesson before the break. I see they just came out with a new model of their shield, and not to pick on Smith & Wesson, but why do companies, when they can't fill the orders that they have, come out with new products to make the situation even worse?
If you can figure that one out, we'd be right behind you. Totally on that one. It's like we bought just a whole bunch of these. The next step in that, what it is that Ruger came out with in Lucky and Springfield with their Hellcat, and Sig with the 365. Smith & Wesson wasn't in that ballpark now, and they're got to keep up with the Joneses next door, and they had to get that gun out, and it's been in the drawing. It's but it came out faster than we thought of, and we don't know because there's no SHOT Show this year. If they were going to introduce that to SHOT Show, nobody wants to talk about anything against the SHOT Show and stuff, and so we don't know what we missed this year not having the SHOT Show.
Life was a lot simpler when we only had your beloved 5-shot snubbies.
You're not a kid. I'll tell you, when you wanted a K frame, an L frame, or N frame Smith & Wesson, and you want a blue or stainless, and before that we just had blue, and then we went to stainless and every size, and now we're going to when they send me this order writer sheet, it's 20-some pages, and there's probably 25, 30 guns on a page. I mean, It's just ridiculous of all the stuff. Do you want it with this way or that way? And years ago, and back to Jeff and Jay's and stuff, Jay's would carry every caliber, every size, every shape of every gun that they would, of models that are manufacturers that carry, they sell. And none of us can do that anymore. Jay's can't do it. We can't do it anymore. There's too many calibers. There's too many variations that just makes it so it's hard for you come in and say, I'd like to get this gun. And I say, I got to get with the manufacturer and stuff. And you say, well, why doesn't he carry them? And because you can't carry every model.
Well, these days, one thing for sure, if you get the gun in the shop, somebody's going to buy it. It's going to be there, a week or so, and somebody's going to buy it.
Yep.
I saw on the website, duncansoutdoor.com, that one of the things you guys offer is a patterning of your turkey gun, your turkey shotgun. And I got thinking, Glenn, I know the basics of this. You run a bunch of different ammo through here and see what pattern's the best. Can we get enough turkey ammo these days to effectively run through these tests and figure out what our gun wants?
No. I'm just being honest with you. No. Nobody's got, like I just checked before I got on, and I have 2 cases of Federal, the TSS version turkey loads and stuff, and most everybody is got little or none. Most of the little gun shops don't have none. The box stores, I know, got some this in the last couple of weeks, and they're talking to Federal before you got to talk to them and stuff, and they're getting some, but none of us are getting enough. The biggest market we're seeing for our industry right now is buckshot, and so a lot of the manufacturers cut back in other areas to build more buckshots. Buckshot is used by individuals, law enforcement, and everything else, and they didn't plan on this much push for buckshot, so they slowed down some of the other ammo.
So I guess then if you do have enough ammo, you can spare a shell or two. Just shoot what you've got on paper to see what pattern it's giving you and keep that in mind when you're in the turkey woods.
Right. And when we talk about turkey loads and turkey chokes and stuff on it, going too tight can hurt you. And we take when you have a hose and you keep wanting to spray farther and stuff, you're tightening it up and making it the nozzle of the hose smaller and smaller to get that to push farther out. And that's what you're trying to do that with steel shot or even non-toxic shot. And if you tighten it too tight, it's going to come out of the end of the barrel, and instead of going and trying to stay small, it's actually going to blow up and get bigger. And so before, years ago, we'd say you're going to shoot with a full choke. A lot of times you're shooting with a modified choke now because of the toxic, non-toxic stuff in the steel shot ammo. And then if you got the Federal's controlled flight wads and stuff, there's a lot of them that are using improved cylinder chokes, just the way they did such a better job on choking and stuff with the wads in column and stuff. So don't push the idea that I don't have time to shoot it, I'm going to go tighter. Don't go that way. It's better to go the other way.
And with these new loads these days, I mean, 12 gauge is probably still got to be the most popular turkey gauge, but I'm hearing a lot about 20. And was it you who a couple of years ago even told me there was a 410 turkey gun coming out?
Yep. Well, it's 410 turkey. And then, that was started out 2 years ago, the 410. And I'm glad you brought that up. And we have a little, if Ernie came back and just told me we have a little bit of 410, and I was like totally amazed. And it was like, it's because the shot and how the wad are working and holding that shot together, the 410 is able to do its job.
I was talking with my grandson Carter the other day about 410s. I said, Carter, for my entire life, I've always wanted a 410 shotgun. It's something I've never owned, but it just seems to me to be such an intriguing, interesting little gun and fun to shoot and cheap to shoot in previous years, not anymore. but it would just be a nice little gun to own.
410 is just a fantastic gun, but it's a bad gun for new shooters. And the reason why, if you go to a skeet range or a trap range, the people that are shooting 410s are shooting them, and we call them handicapped. They're making that because they know it's harder because there's less shot, less energy going out at that clay bird. Then it's harder to hit that clay bird and stuff. So the guys that are shooting and breaking 50 out of 50 and stuff, we want to make it so they can't break 50-50, so we put them into 410s. And so it's handicapping them to get that 50 count clay birds. And so to give a kid, a youth, a new shooter, a 410, sometimes it's not the most friendly thing to do.
I often think about ammunition in terms of self-defense and hunting, but I completely forget about the trap and skeet guys because they burn through more ammo in a year than a personal defense or a hunter ever will. They've got to really be hurting.
They are. When this started, I had more shotgun primers than I thought that I could need for the next 5 years. And as soon as the word got out, primers became a little bit scarce. We were out of them within a week. I mean, and selling at 100 count boxes, just trying to get it so everybody was coming in. And my attitude is I'd rather sell you 100 so you can go out this week and come back in another couple of weeks and I'll have some more in and stuff than give you 10 boxes and nobody else can have any. So it's just been that kind of battle for all of us.
So are you doing that with ammo? You got a quota on ammo right now?
Yeah, well, one box per caliber and per person right now, and that's still makes it hard for a lot of us.
Did you ever think in all your years in business you'd see something like this?
No, we had it when Sandy Hook and those, and we've had it a couple times in my lifetime, but I think this is going to be the longest and strongest one that we've had.
You said earlier in the conversation you want to keep politics out of it, and I do as well. However, this most recent thing in Boulder is going to make the powers that be call for gun control again. They were already leaning that direction. You serve on a lot of these national boards and committees and groups, and you talk with these people at the national level all the time, Glenn. What are you seeing? How is it serious or just lip service again?
We're taking it seriously. Because through Obama's years and then Trump's years, and Obama started it, we can make more presidential orders, and they found out how to do that and do it at the presidential level and not worry about the Senate and House. And that's what scares us the most, that it could be done. The ban on magazines has been there. You've been through it yourself and then we had the sunset of the law on banning the high cap magazines and stuff. That's where we're seeing that they're going to start with that. The next thing, probably the short barreled rifles and stuff. The ones with the shoulder stocks that everybody thinks they're wrist stocks and everything else. So they're going to look at that big time. But the problem is we got to look at it, and it finally came out on the news last night that this last kid, again, has had lots of mental problems. And 99% of our problems are mental people. And so years ago, we had mental homes. We had places for people to go. We were able to help keep track of them a little bit better and stuff. And I don't want government to control my life. I don't want government in everything I do. But if you have a mental problem, and I know that on a personal level from my family alone, I have a relative that the family's got to work with us, but also the government's got to find a way that they can make it so if you do have a mental problem that we can keep track of you.
Yeah, it's not a gun problem. It's a people problem, right? All right, real quick question, and 10 seconds to answer it. Jason wouldn't answer this. Maybe you will. How long is this whole shortage going to last?
We're saying 2 years.
Well, that was. I tried 3 different times to get him to answer that.
We have had.
And you came right out and did it.
With Steve Hornaday a week ago, and we're all thinking it's going to be a 2-year program.
Glen Duncan, always a pleasure. The website, duncansoutdoor.com, duncansoutdoor.com. Glen's a great guy, runs a great business. Stop by and see him, and maybe he'll have ammo for you, and maybe not. But why should he be any different than anybody else these days? We'll take a break in the Outdoor Magazine show. When we come back, Nick Green of MUCC right here on Outdoor Magazine. You can hear the Outdoor Magazine show in Houghton Lake on the Twister 92.1 WTWS. You can hear us in Manistee on WMLQ 97.7 FM. And you can hear us in Port Huron on WPHM 1380 AM. This segment of Outdoor Magazine is brought to you by the Linwood Beach Marina and Campground. Linwood Beach can be your year-round Saginaw Bay fishing destination and your Mid-Michigan Tracker and Angler Quest headquarters. For more info, check them out online at linwoodbeachmarina.com. That's linwoodbeachmarina.com. Great people. Oh, and if you want to get your boat ready for the water, too, folks at Linwood Beach can help you out there. Great people, great location, great facilities all the way around. LinwoodBeachMarina.com. While you're online, head on over to MUCC.org. MUCC.org, the website of the Michigan United Conservation Clubs. If you want to save 25% on your membership, use the promo code MIKE, all caps, M-I-K-E, to save 25% on your new membership or your renewal. Nick Green is the Chief Information Officer with MUCC, with us now on the Outdoor Magazine phone line. Nick, welcome back. How are you?
Good morning, Mike. I'm doing well.
It's springtime, Nick.
It is. Steelhead are in the rivers. The walleye are starting to run. We're having woodcock show up. Turkeys are starting to gobble. It's coming to life out in Michigan's great outdoors.
Yeah, it certainly is. But regardless of the season, you guys there at MUCC in Lansing are almost always busy. What's on the agenda? What's in your inbox these days, Nick?
A lot of what I have been working on the last few weeks are kind of communications surrounding wolves and cranes. So you and I talked about cranes 2 weeks ago, and we're kind of working through the wolf issue right now, as most Michiganders who have had have been tuned into this issue the last decade. It's complicated and gets messy. So that's kind of what we're working through right now.
I know it's complicated. I know it's messy, but man, it shouldn't be. It should be strictly a biological decision. Can we do it or not? Let the managers make their decision and move on. But that's just not today's world anymore, is it?
It isn't, and in more of what we've kind of realized, especially with wolves, because they were listed federally as an endangered species, are what the triggers that put something on, and then what triggers their delisting from being an endangered species. We've met the federal management goal for, I believe it's several decades. Since 1994, we've been above the federal management goal for wolves, and it's taken, we've had several delistings. But as you kind of touched on, sometimes emotions drive litigation, and anti-hunting groups feed off of folks' emotion. So that's kind of what we're in a holding pattern right now until we figure out what happens with this federal litigation.
Well, in fact, your executive director, Amy Trotter, and I don't think this is too strong of a word, I feel like she got attacked, not physically, but verbally, by one of those anti-hunting groups. Yeah,
the Humane Society of the United States. I wouldn't necessarily make attacks on Amy, but she certainly made attacks on conservationists and hunters.
Okay.
Making the bold claim that hunters are not conservationists. And HSUS has started to throw around an economic report that claims 94% of conservation funding doesn't have anything to do with hunting, and that's just simply not.
Oh my gosh, that is so blatantly wrong. How can they expect that ever to fly?
Yeah, it's the way they're interpreting data. So they're taking like PR dollars that are recreational shooters, and they're not counting those people as hunters. So it's all in how they're slicing and dicing the data, but it's getting messy, and it's quickly getting messy in public meetings. Trophy hunting is another term that just continually is thrown out, and the way they're using it is describing folks who take any game ethically abiding by all state laws. So it's sickening and disheartening, and it's tough because they are very good and effective at appealing to people's emotions. And we as hunters and conservationists need to just remember what the science says. We need to calmly make that argument using the science and try to reason with people's, better instincts.
Yeah, you're right. They are absolute masters of public relations, PR. But there is some good news. Amy is going to have a seat at the table in this whole process, isn't she?
Yeah, so 2 weeks ago, right as the Natural Resources Commission March meeting started, Director Dan Eichinger appointed the seats for the Michigan Wolf Management Advisory Council, and Amy is one of those 5 seats. As she should be. Amy's been in this battle for more than a decade. She knows as much as anyone else does on the subject, and she is digging in, and we've already engaged all of our UP hunting and trapping clubs to make sure their voices are represented. So we're we're privileged to be on that committee and excited to kind of see what the first meeting holds in April.
Was it mandated, or did the antis end up having a seat as well?
Yes. So it's kind of a legislative prescription to what the council should be comprised of. And the 5 buckets were conservation organization, hunting organization, animal advocacy organization, a farming organization, and then a tribal organization, tribal representation.
Yep.
So for the anti-hunting animal rights advocacy, it is Beef Freelander from Attorneys for Animals.
All right. Nick, listen, I got to go. Appreciate your time. Nick Green from MUCC, MUCC.org is the website. Use the promo code Mike, all caps, save 25% on your membership. We'll take a break here in the Outdoor Magazine show. When we come back, this week's Ask Avery segment talking about a split turkey season. I didn't know there was one, but we'll find out after the break right here on Outdoor Magazine. You can hear the Outdoor Magazine show in Tawas on WIOS, AM and FM, 1480 AM, 106.9 FM. And you can hear us in Muskegon on WKBZ, that's 1090 AM. The Ask Avery segment is brought to you each week by Security Credit Union. Security Credit Union loves to work with outdoorsmen and women, and they can help you with your next outdoor adventure. Check them out online at securitycu.org. That's securitycu.org. The way this segment works is this is your chance to be involved in the content of the show. You can send me a question, something that you would like me to answer. Or if I don't know the answer, or you can even tell me, hey, ask somebody in the DNR or something. But let me know what your question is. You can post it on social media. Just give me a heads up. Let me know. Send it to me in a private message. Or probably the best way to do it is to send me an email, mike@mikeaveryoutdoors.com, mike@mikeaveryoutdoors.com. And that's what Ronnie Carr did. He sent me this email to mike@mikeaveryoutdoors.com. He says, Mike, I have a question about turkey hunting. He says, this is the first time ever hunting these interesting creatures. Well, good luck to you, Ronnie. You're going to fall in love with it. He said he was drawn for the season 4/17/21 -6/7/21 for his first choice, but it has the word "and" between April and June, meaning it's April 17th through the 23rd and June 1st through the 7th. He says, is there a break in between? Well, I've never heard of such a thing. In my experience, Michigan turkey seasons are either, basically a week-long season earlier in the year, or you get the mosquito season, Hunt 234, which is all of May, or recently, ZZ, private land in southern Michigan, is the whole season. And that's the one I go through because I can start in mid-April and all the way through May if I want. So I thought that sounded odd, but I got in touch with Al Stewart of the DNR, not Al Stewart who sings Year of the Cat. Al Stewart, the nationally noted wildlife biologist who, by the way, is going to retire at the end of the month after 50 years working for the DNR. 50 years. And during that time, he's become known. Actually, he just texted me right now. Known as a national turkey hunting expert. So congrats, Al. Congrats. Anyway, Al answered the question. Remember, the question is there a break in between? Al says yes. He actually has 2 periods to hunt. The first opportunity is indeed that April 17th through the 23rd. That's the first spring hunt week. And his second opportunity to hunt is June 1st through the 7th. A special hunt period for people that apply for the first week. I never heard of this. He said the reason for this is to overcome the complaint from people who applied for and got their preferred first week hunt and then had poor hunting conditions due to snow, rain, and high winds, etc. He said it's all about choices. That is, I find that very interesting. Because in my mind, and Ronnie Carr, good luck to you. I mean, congrats to you. This is great. But in my mind, when you apply for those early seasons, you do so knowing that you're rolling the dice with Mother Nature. If you wanted to wait for good weather, you would get the 234, the mosquito season, the May season. So when you apply for those early seasons like I do, at least in the past, you're taking a chance because, in my case, I want to be out there in the woods when turkey season opens. However, I know that I could run into cold. I could run into a cold rain. I could run into snow, which is going to make the birds more quiet. It's going to make them less cooperative. But that's okay. That's a choice that I make. So I didn't realize there was such a thing. It's like the best of both worlds. Okay, I'm going to apply for the early season, but if the weather's bad, I can still get out there and hunt in June. I mean, I guess it's a win-win. It's like my early season. It's like my ZZ hunt. It's a win-win. It's 6 weeks of turkey hunting on private land in southern Michigan. But the point is, if you want to hunt turkeys in Michigan these days, you can. It used to be, if you didn't get draw a tag for one of those week-long seasons, you were done. You had to wait until next year. Not so these days. If you applied for a turkey license, you can go in now and just buy one over the counter. Now, even at this point in the year, even if you did not apply for a license earlier, you can get a spring turkey hunting license. Anybody who wants to hunt turkeys in Michigan these days can do it. Keep in mind, though, that last year when COVID first hit and everybody went out turkey hunting, that ZZ did sell out. 50,000 tags sold out. So don't assume that the licenses are going to be there because there are quotas on some of them. In fact, most of them. So, Ronnie, listen, thank you for that question. You opened my eyes. I had no idea Michigan even had a split turkey season, so thank you for that. And Al Stewart, thank you for answering that question. By the way, we'll have Al on the show next week to kind of wish him well and congratulate him on 50 years as a wildlife biologist and wish him well in his retirement. And, of course, a big thank you to the friends at Security Credit Union for helping to make each week's Ask Avery segment possible. They love to work with outdoorsmen and women. Check them out online at securitycu.org. That's securitycu.org. We'll take a break for the top of the hour. When we come back, hour number 3, we're going to talk southern Lake Michigan fishing with Russ Clark. He's a charter captain out of St. Joe. He's been in the big water. He's been in the river as well. And we'll wrap it all up with wild game chef extraordinaire Dave Miner. I think he has a fish recipe. I don't know what kind, but we will find out in hour number 3 of this week's Outdoor Magazine.
Time now for Michigan's #1 outdoor radio show, Mike Avery's Outdoor Magazine. Outdoor Magazine is brought to you by Jay Sporting Goods, the Yider Insurance Group, Angler Quest Pontoons and Polarcraft Boats, The Forward Corporation, Primal Tree Stands, Shadow Hunter Blinds, Security Credit Union, Garber Chevrolet, and by Michigan Brand Meats. Now, here's Mike Avery.
Well, thank you, Ken Hunter, for that introduction, and welcome to hour number 3 of this week's Outdoor Magazine show right here on the Outdoor Magazine Radio Network. So glad to have you along with us. So glad it's springtime. Really loving the weather. Now the forecast for this weekend does look like it's going to be a little bit cooler, but we certainly have had some nice weather, at least in my part of Michigan. It feels like Mother Nature might be a couple of weeks ahead. She thinks it's a little later in the year than it is, but personally, I'm looking forward to turkey season. I'm looking forward to getting the Angler Quest out on Saginaw Bay and chasing walleye, but those are still a few weeks out for me, a couple of weeks out at least. But there's one place I know I could go right now and get some open water action. That's the southern part of Lake Michigan. I'm thinking right now down around St. Joe. Now, I used to fish around St. Joe quite a bit. I got some buddies there. We used to fish the river. We used to fish the Big Lake for early season coho. We used to fish the river for steelhead, and I find it to be just an absolute beautiful fishery. Captain Russ Clark of SeaHawk Charters is a charter captain out of St. Joe, and he's on the water with us right now. Russ, welcome to the show. How are you?
Oh, great, Mike. Thank you.
Yeah, well, listen. I appreciate you dealing with our cell signal earlier. You know, the cell signal allows us to reach people when they're on the water, but sometimes it just doesn't want to cooperate.
Sure. No, I fully understand that.
So, listen, tell me, how has the fishing been?
The fishing's been good, Mike. We got our limit on Coho this morning. The lake fishing's been real good. It's been mostly along the beach, anywhere from 8 foot to 20 foot of water, for the most part from the piers south. The river fishing has been slow. It's been very tough. It was a tougher year in general on the river fishing, but lately the fish are on the beds and there doesn't appear to be a lot of fish, and it's been real tough.
Well, that's what I was going to ask. Why do you think it's been slow? You're just saying there's just not the number of fish, huh?
There isn't. You know, in the St. Joe, it does have a fish ladder, so typically in the spring when the water comes up, although we did not get high water this year, it's been on the low side all year, but we'll lose fish up the fish ladder, but usually we get a new run of fish that will make up for the fish that we lose. But it's just it's been, you know, I've been guiding since 1985 and full-time year-round, and I'd say this has been one of the toughest years, you know, for steelhead on the river.
Wow, and that's saying a lot, a guy who's been doing it as long as you have.
Yeah, I've seen the good, bad, and ugly. So I've done it a lot.
Hey, so what? How did you end up in this path on this path in life? How did you end up being a charter captain full time?
Well, I caught my first salmon in 1967 out of Manistee. I was 5 years old with my dad, and I was hooked. But I went to college, graduated from Western Michigan University with a bachelor's degree in business, and I just wanted to be a guide for a little while, you know, and 1 year turned to 2, and then 5, and then 10, and now over 30 years as years progressed. But it's been a great life. I've met a lot of super people, and, you know, we've had great fishing and we've had tough fishing, but it's just great to be in the outdoors.
Well, it certainly is, and that's interesting about your first fish in Manistee. My first salmon was out of Manistee. I was thinking it was 68 because I was thinking that was the first year they had fish, but it must have been 67. We must have been out there together as kids, Russ.
Yeah, I think so, Mike. We had no clue what we were doing. We didn't have, you know, we were throwing daredevils. And, I mean, we just didn't have any idea.
We had flatfish on braided Dacron lines, so we didn't know either, but nobody did, Russ.
Right, for sure.
And when you look at how look at how the fishery has evolved over the years and how our tactics and techniques have changed, it's a different ballgame now, isn't it?
It is. You know, I would say in the early years, a guide had quite an edge over your typical, you know, fisherman that came up on the weekends. But your average fisherman's a great fisherman on the river. I mean, they're very good. And, you know, as far as the lake goes, we're definitely, you know, running less downriggers and more long lines and copper and lead core. A lot has changed over the years, the way we fish with the clarity of Lake Michigan with the zebra mussels. So try to use more of a stealth type approach.
Why do you think, and I'm going to use the term weekend warrior, and I don't mean it as a derogatory term, but why do you think the weekend guys, the non-full-time people, why are they better anglers than they used to be?
I think that, you know, a lot of it's learning curve too. I think YouTube and Facebook and, you know, and there's not that many secrets anymore. You used to kind of have secret spots and stuff, but a lot has changed over the years and in technology. And I think some guides are kind of stick with the old school, what used to work, and some of the new generation, you know, has new techniques and stuff, and that does work.
Russ, as I said, I've got some experience fishing out of St. Joe, but for folks who have not fished out of your port or fished your river, tell us about your fishery. Tell us about your area there.
Well, it starts out like right now, and it's coho fishing. Generally, that's going to be along the beach, anywhere. You know, normally we fish south from the piers all the way as far as the Cook Nuclear Plant, or could even go south there of that. That could be 8 to 20 foot of water. And as the season progresses, usually late April, we'll start getting a lot of kings, and it's a tremendous king salmon fishery. In late April, May, that time frame, and then June, we're offshore and we'll be chasing the coho out there and steelhead. And then July and August, September, it's intermittent salmon. And, there's a lot of lake trout to be caught, too.
Well, I always think of those kings as spending the winter down in the southern part of the state and then migrate north as the season goes on. When you get to be midsummer, do those big kings pretty much leave you, or are they still out there?
They do for the most part. You'll catch a random one here and there, and we'll get some in August. But, in the southern part of the lake, exactly what you said, most of these fish winter in the southern end of the lake. So we got a large population of fish here in April, May. So it's really tremendous fishing. And we've caught some kings the last couple of years, even pushing that 30-pound range, which I didn't think I'd ever see again. That we've caught kings like we did back in the 70s and 80s. Not a lot that size, but they are out there.
From a captain's perspective, would you rather see a few big fish like that or a bunch of smaller fish? What do your clients, what do your customers want to see?
I mean, a big one's exciting and fun, but I would rather see numbers because, so everybody, as a guide, we all want our clients to have rod action. We want them to have catch fish, So I would prefer more than that one big one, But the best scenario is a lot of maybe even smaller ones and one big one, but definitely want action. That's what's exciting about this fishing.
Well, and for people who haven't fished kings on Lake Michigan, they get into a 5, 6, 10-pound fish, they're happy as can be.
Oh, yeah, and they're a great fight even at that size range. I mean, they'll give you, they're very, I guess I'd use the word frisky in the spring, so they're fun to catch.
Now, you don't have, if I remember right, you don't have the structure offshore like a Manistee or a Frankfurt does. So what do you look for when you're finding fish?
The biggest structure is, obviously bait, if you can identify where the bait is, but water temperature, bait, coloration of water, like little current rips where there's slicks. Most of the structure we're going to see is surface structure.
That's interesting because actually I now that you mention it, I can see this, but I wouldn't even have thought of surface structure. So you're looking at something that's different out there, whether it's bait. Do you get a thermocline?
We do, but the thermocline won't really happen till more in the summertime, maybe say June on. And the interesting thing is, Mike, like even with the coho, you can catch one coho. If we're fishing offshore in deep water, then that's where they'll go once they leave the shoreline. You can catch one on the top with a thin fin, and the next one could be 200 down on a downrigger. So, I mean, it's a wide spread, where they can be. They eat shrimp, down deep, and basically that water temperature is pretty close to the same top to bottom. So you really can, when you put your pattern out, it can be pretty wide pattern, as far as top to bottom.
We're talking with Captain Russ Clark of SeaHawk Charters. His website is fishseahawk.com, fishseahawk.com. He fishes out of St. Joe. He's on the water right now, or at least wrapping up a pretty successful day. We've got to take a break here in the Outdoor Magazine show. But when we come back, I want to continue our conversation with Russ, talking about this springtime, early season trolling, water temp, water depth, baits, speeds, all that good stuff. St. Joe is a very interesting fishery. It fires up a lot earlier than, say, they would up by Muskegon or Manistee or Frankfurt or parts north. Again, his website, fishseahawk.com. It's fishseahawk.com. We'll take a break. When we come back, wrap up our conversation with Russ. Also, we'll be talking with wild game chef extraordinaire Dave Miner as at the end of the hour. Oh, and one other thing, talking about fishing. If you want to go walleye fishing with me on Saginaw Bay, it's a charity auction for a good cause, my church's parochial school, Trinity Monitor. Go to the website, bidnow.us, bidnow.us. It's a 4-person trip, walleye fishing on Saginaw Bay aboard the Angler Quest with me. The online auction ends Tuesday the 30th, so get involved in that now. If you like, I'd love to have you go with me. can hear the Outdoor Magazine show in Houghton Lake on 98.5 WUPS. And you can hear us in Holland on WHTC, AM and FM, 1450 AM, 99.7 FM. This segment of Outdoor Magazine is brought to you by Wilds Plumbing and Heating. Plumbing, heating, air conditioning, sump pumps, ductwork cleaning, fireplace installation. I mean, you name it. Hot water heaters, of course. And I think I've had the guys from Wilds do every one of those jobs for me at 2 different houses. So you know I trust them. You know I believe they do a great job. Or you know what? If I didn't believe they did a great job, I wouldn't be promoting them. I wouldn't talk about them. But the fact that I'm talking about them every week and I invite them into my house, I think says a lot. They've done a great job for me, as they will for you. Check them out online at wildsplumbingandheating.com. That's wildsplumbingandheating.com. While you are online, please check out my website, MikeAveryOutdoors.com, and then head on over to FishSeaHawk.com. FishSeaHawk.com, the website of SeaHawk Charters out of St. Joe. Captain Russ Clark is the guy behind the business. And Russ is with us now on the Outdoor Magazine phone line. So, Russ, tell me this morning, you said you were chasing Coho. How many people on board, and where are they from today? Did we drop them? All right. We're going to... I'll tell you a little secret. While Charlie's trying to get him back on, we couldn't get him through the studio line, but for some reason, if I called him on my cell, the cell number would go through. So that last segment you heard was actually us talking to him on my cell number, on this a cell phone, on the speaker with the phone held up to the microphone, and it actually sounded pretty good. So if I wouldn't have told you, you probably wouldn't even have known, right? We could have got away with it. But for some reason, it's a little bit squirrely this morning. Got him? Russ, you there?
No.
There we go.
I got you.
Yeah. The modern technology is great, isn't it?
I know.
Hey, so listen, tell me. This morning you said you were out chasing Coho. How many people on board, and where are they from?
They're from the Indianapolis area, and we had 2 people, and we got our limit with the salmon this morning.
Do most of your clients, most of your customers, are they coming up from out of state, there where you are in the southern part of the state?
Yeah, I would say a majority are. We do have some local business, but we get also a pretty large group of people that come from Detroit area and from all over. But Indiana and stuff is, even Ohio is relatively close.
Well, and I would think where you are too, Chicago would be a great market for it.
Chicago is a big market too, very much so.
Yeah. Hey, do you have the big boat in the water yet?
It's going in next week.
So what are you fishing out of right now?
It's actually my river boat. The early season, a lot of my groups are smaller because they're steelhead groups, and that's always an option for us if the lake's calm enough. If we can't get on, if the river fishing's slow and it's calm enough to get on the lake, it gives us a nice option to go out and fish there.
I think when I was talking to you yesterday, setting this up, you said you had some people you thought were coming in who wanted to get some catfish?
Yeah, yep. We kind of came up in the river and we're trying to fish for them, and we caught one so far, but it's the water's a little bit cold yet, for that to really take off.
I really think, though, that points out what a diverse fishery you have there in St. Joe.
It is. There's walleyes in the river, and then, of course, your salmon and steelhead, and so there's perch, so there's really a wide variety of fish that you can catch.
Do you get any early season ice out brown trout fishing?
We used to get a lot, Mike, but browns are a rarity. We did catch one this morning, but they're quite rare. Huh. They don't plant a lot of them here anymore, and that's probably part of the issue.
Yeah. So let's talk a little bit about this early season coho fishing, though. Do you target them up in the troughs, up on shore like you do browns?
You do. You're going to fish the same way, kind of in and out of the sandbars, fishing right along the beach. It's all a surface program. Thin fins are a very popular bait, but you can use rapalas or small hottentots, usually for the most part in bright colors, reds and greens and stuff like that. And,
just kind of zigzag in and out. Of course, as time progresses, the fish will move out. You might be fishing 20, 30, or 40, and then there also will be that day when they kind of leave the beach, and it seems like when they leave the beach, they like to go way offshore. They like to be out in that anywhere from 120 to 220.
And that's a pretty good run for you there, isn't it?
It is. We're running out, usually probably run out 7-8 miles to start, and that's definitely when you need the big boat. It's not a riverboat fishery there.
When they make this transition from real shallow water and head out deep, it kind of sounds like it's pretty abrupt. It's like, okay, they're here one day and they're gone the next.
It is. A lot of times it happens. If you have a real heavy blow and the beach gets really dirty and they're real churned up, and they just kind of leave it. I'm sure the key is they're chasing bait. If the bait on the shoreline is gone, the fish are going to be where the food is.
And I appreciate you bringing that up because I wanted to follow up on this. I was thinking water temp is key, but you're saying bait is key. But wherever you get a little bit, this time of year, if you get a difference in water temp, that's where the bait fish are going to be, right?
It is. It generally is. And a lot of times, when we have that blow, we always call it a plume effect in the lake. But basically, the lake will be pretty dirty, when you're running out, and it'd be a mixed up darkish olive green. And then what you do, you run offshore until you get to that deep blue, where it changes that blue. And they love, all the Great Lakes fish love edges, anytime place there's a change.
Is that plume, though, is that river water coming out, or is it also sand mixed up from wave action on a windy day on shore?
I would say it's sand, mixed up, and then when you get to that really cold water offshore, and that's going to be a denser cold water, that's where you're going to get, where it really clears up.
Tell me about these early season coho, Russ. How big are they?
They're probably, on average a couple pounds. You might get lucky and get one 3 or 4 pounds once in a while. They're not big fish, but, the action is fun when they're biting fast. And they're, as far as table fare, they're great eating.
Best out there, isn't it?
It is. It certainly is.
Well, I know they're small, so it might be hard to tell, but are they a good fighting fish?
They are, I'll be honest, the boards do take some of the fight away, but boards are, they catch a lot of fish. And then we'll also just run flat lines. But, as the season progresses, they keep getting bigger and bigger. So, in June, you might start getting them up, 6, 7, 8 pounds. And they're a pretty good fight then.
And the boards you're running, are they the big skis or the inline planers?
No, the inline planers is what we run. You can use either, but traditionally most people use the inline planer boards.
Well, and that goes along with what you were saying earlier, too. Tactics and techniques change. It used to be we ran the big skis. Now we're running the inlines. It used to be, Russ, on Lake Michigan, you know better than I, but if you didn't have a bunch of downriggers across the back of your boat, you weren't really fishing. And these days, we don't see that so much.
No, majority of all the charter boat captains, including myself, all run a 3 downrigger program. You have your shoot rigger in the middle and then your 2 out downs, and that's pretty much the standard setup is 3 downriggers.
How many rods, when you got a full crew, how many rods would you put in a spread in midsummer?
Especially the spring, Mike, we'll run 18, 20 rods because you can fish such a diverse depth level, because you can have stuff on the surface, you can have 2 and 3 color, but you also could have 300 and 350 copper, and like my downriggers, I might run my deepest rigger down 180, one out down 90, and another out down 40. So that's a pretty big expansive area that you're catching fish. And generally, I always run free sliders on them too. They're very effective in the spring as well.
But what is the key for us weekend warriors? What is the key for running that many rods and not ending up with a bird's nest?
Control straight. So, a lot of times, when we fish in the spring, we may set up at 80 foot and we'll just make one long straight troll all the way to 220, and then we'll make a circle and work our way back in. But a lot of times we'll catch them in a wide variety of depth levels.
So is the key, though, when you're running that many lines, is the key to keep them from tangling, and we all know that eventually something's going to tangle, but do you put them out in a certain order and bring them back in a certain order, or doesn't that matter?
You do. I mean, we always fish what I call a V pattern, so the furthest stuff outside is going to be your shallowest, and as you come towards the boat, it's going to be your deepest stuff, as well as the downriggers is a V pattern. Your deepest downriggers will be down the middle, and your shallower downriggers will be on the out downs. So if you do that, it eliminates tangles quite a bit.
Do you fish with a mate?
I do.
I think with 20 rods in the water, I'd want to have a first mate too.
Yeah. Now, we don't always run that many. There's just that time frame when, it works. Sometimes less is better too.
How so?
Well, if it's rough or anything like that, you're better off running 8 or 10 rods the right way than running too many and have them tangled and have a mess.
Gotcha. All right, so you had a good trip on the big lake this morning. You ate your limited coho, and if I heard you right, you're up in the river now looking for some cats?
Yeah, yep, we are, but limited success. I mean, I would take a steelhead or brown, too. But
sure.
Yeah, I got spawn out, so, but that's been tough. And I'd say, as you were talking earlier, Mike, I really believe that everything's about 2 weeks ahead this year, it seems to me.
Yeah, it does feel like it, doesn't it? All right, Russ, listen, I'm going to let you get back to fishing. I've taken up enough of your day, but I appreciate your time. The website, fishseahawk.com. How's your summer looking? You got openings?
I do. I got some, the spring is pretty booked, April, May. I got some afternoon trips available. But I still got some stuff available in June, July, and August in mornings.
Perfect. If you want to go fishing with Russ Clark of Captain Russ Clark of SeaHawk Charters out of St. Joe, go to the website, fishseahawk.com. You can book right on the website, fishseahawk.com. Thanks to Russ for your time, and I appreciate it. We'll take a break here in the Outdoor Magazine Show. When we come back, I got a couple of things I want to follow up on from earlier in the show, and of course, we'll wrap it all up with wild game chef extraordinaire Dave Miner. I don't know what he's got, but I think it's a fish recipe, and I know it's going to be good. That's coming up right here on Outdoor Magazine. Welcome back to Outdoor Magazine. My name is Mike Avery. So glad to have you along with us. You can hear the show in Ludington on News 97.98, 98.7 WLDN. You can hear us in the Sioux on ESPN 1400 WKNW. I certainly hope and pray that maybe by August I can see my friends in the Sioux as I come through on my way to White River on a bear hunt. I don't know, is it going to happen or not? That's probably the biggest reason why I'm getting my COVID shots. I've had the first one, not the second one yet, because it looks like if they open up the border, one of the stipulations is going to be that you've had your shots. And I want to go bear hunting again. And I want to go bear hunting in Michigan, too. And also, you can hear us. You thought I got off track, didn't you? Well, I did, but I came back. You can hear the show also in Saginaw and the Saginaw Valley on WSGW AM and FM, 790 AM, 100.5 FM. I'm in the studios of WSGW right now, but for these 3 hours, this one studio is actually called the Outdoor Magazine Studio. Charlie Rood's in here with me doing a wonderful job as always. He turns and he waves to the adoring crowd, the fans. It's amazing how many people line up outside the windows to watch this show get done. In fact, the parking lot right now is absolutely full. We've got township police out there right now directing traffic. This segment of Outdoor Magazine brought to you by Reader Landscaping. Oh, it's getting to be that time of year, isn't it? Time to start heading outside again, outdoors again, enjoying the yard, the lawn, the property, the patio, the deck, the pool, the fire pit, the water feature. The folks from Reader can help you out with that, as they have for me and as they continue to. I actually I used to have mow my lawn and take care of everything. But a couple of years ago, last year, I said, I'm going to start mowing my own lawn because I wanted the exercise. I wanted the steps. I wanted to get out there and sweat a little bit, and I'm glad to do that. But they're taking care of everything else, trimming trees, fertilizing, sprinkler systems. They can do that all for you, and they can mow your lawn if you want. That and much more. Check them out online at reederlandscaping.com. That's REDER, reederlandscaping.com. Oh, it's been kind of a fun show this week. We've had our share of technical difficulties. We did. But I know that when I'm in here, and that's one of the reasons I really love working with broadcast professionals. Charlie Rood, Pat Johnson, is when things go bad, and inevitably, you do a 3-hour show every week for years and years, sometimes something's going to go bad. I just sit back and I don't worry about it. I let the guys take care of it. They're paid handsomely for that. I mean, you can't 6 figures, each of them. I mean, so they're doing it for the money, Charlie's laughing at that one. He can't even listen to that with a straight face. Oh, what's on my list here? Let me take care of a couple things before we turn it over to my friend Dave Miner and wrap it all up. Springtime. It is indeed springtime. The calendar says springtime, but Mother Nature says springtime as well. I walked out of the house this morning, and we had that nice warm rain, and it just smelled like spring. Absolutely wonderful. It made me think of night crawlers, picking up night crawlers for trout season when I was a kid. I actually have pictures of some morels that people have picked up, Morel Mushrooms in southern Michigan. They've posted them on the Facebook page, sent them to me. And when they do that early in the year, they always put them in front of a newspaper. So it's, with a date. So it's legitimate. It's from this year. So we're seeing some of those, just a little bit. I think it's time to put the goose fence up in the backyard. Like Russ Clark was saying, everything seems to be a little bit early this year. Well, for some reason, the geese have decided they need to take over our backyards a little bit early this year, too. I can fix that. I can put up a fence. Still waiting for my angler quest. There is such a shortage and such a demand in all outdoor-related products and gear these days, from guns and ammunition to boats, motors, electronics, camping gear, campers, ORVs, jet skis. I mean, you name it. And it's wonderful, right, that there's this renewed interest in the outdoors, but combine that with the fact that COVID kind of screwed up production, manufacturing, distribution for a while, too. I have been shooting my recurve, getting ready for turkey season. I feel like I'm shooting pretty good. I wouldn't want to sit out on the blind right now with a decoy in front of me. I need to work on my rehoning my shooting skills a little bit more. And also one more thing. Here's a chance for you, if you want, to go walleye fishing with me on Saginaw Bay aboard the Angler Quest. It's an Angler Quest. It's an online charity auction, a fundraiser for Trinity Monitor Lutheran School. That's my church's parochial school in Bay County. And I'm giving away a walleye fishing trip on Saginaw Bay for 4 people. The highest bidder will win that trip. It's at a mutually agreeable date in June or July of this summer. Here's how you get involved. Go to the website, bidnow.us. Bidnow.us. Look for the Trinity Monitor auction. And I think I'm item number 46 or 47. And make your bid. Don't wait, though. I mean, time's running out. I think the 30th is the end of the auction. So as you're hearing the broadcast version of the show, you got about another day. But if that's something you're interested in, you want to help out a good cause, I don't get any money for it. The money goes entirely to the school. Love to have you bid on that. Bidnow.us, bidnow.us, the Trinity Monitor auction. I'll look for the Avery fishing trip, I think item 46 or 47. We'll take a break here in the Outdoor Magazine show. When we come back, wrap it all up with wild game chef extraordinaire Dave Miner. I know he's got a fish recipe. I don't know what kind. I'll be surprised, just like you will, after the break right here on Outdoor Magazine. Welcome back to Outdoor Magazine. Again, my name is Mike Avery. Thank you so much for listening to this week's show. I do appreciate it. And if you've been with me before, you know I like to wrap up each week with one of the nicest guys you will ever meet. I've known him for many, many years. It's been a blessing the entire time. Wild game chef Dave Miner, who wraps up each week's show, and he's with us once again. David, welcome back. How are you?
I'm very good. Thanks for giving me the big head again, Michael. My goodness, I was able to get through the doors.
I know, but it's true. Hey, listen, you were asking me to Google something during the show, and I just didn't have time. What do you want me to take a look at, Dave?
Well, the sucker runs out of the Great Lakes. I learned more about suckers and their habitat and their habits in a 3-minute read. If people want to see about suckers, by all means.
Well, I will check that out after the show. I know we did a sucker recipe last week, but any chance you got another one we can do this week?
I do. I got a great one. I know I've used this with a lot of different fish, and I can't see why it wouldn't work good for the old sucker.
All righty.
Okay, what we want to do, this is kind of a sweeter dish, you know. So, you're going to take the suckers. I like to skin them. Now, there's two kinds of suckers I found out. There's the long-nosed sucker and the white sucker. Sounds like the white suckers is what we get on this side of the state over here on the west side that run up into the Archery and the Rifle River and the tributaries of there. So you're going to need about 8 ounces or more, 10 ounces per person. You want to skin them. Or you can, if you want to scale them, that wouldn't be too bad either. But you want it from the dorsal fin back. There's no bones. And up front, you can cut them out or just eat around them if you like. So I like to dredge the fish, soak them first overnight in milk, pat them dry, and then put them. I like Zatarans because it has a little zing to it. It depends on what kind of a recipe you're going to do. You could use dry drakes or Zatarans. Pat the fish off after soaking them, roll them in the Zatarans, kind of squeeze it on a little bit. And then in a medium hot pan with some olive oil or regular vegetable oil, you can brown them. Start with the skin side up, fillet side or bone side down. When you turn it over, then that part would be facing the diner. You want to do this in old batches, you know, so you're not going to have too much crowding, and you want to brown this real nice. Put them on either a baking sheet or in a casserole. When you get them all done, put them in the 350-degree oven. But first, before you do that, you're going to take a little bit, depending on how much you like, shredded coconut and put it on the top of it. And in that oven that's 350 degrees or so, they're going to start to brown after a few minutes. So it's going to be really a nice presentation, too. So for the sauce, you want to take a jar of chicken gravy, and if you like, you could get some coconut liqueur and tropical schnapps, or you can buy coconut extract and use that if you don't feel like buying the alcohol. You're going to need a little bit of white pepper, some heavy cream. So you're going to take all of that stuff and you put it in a pan. Maybe you could even wipe out the same pan, you know, and then use that same pan and bring it up to a nice boil, cook it down slowly for the 8 to 10 minutes that fish is going to be in the oven, finishing cooking and browning off. So then what I'd like to do is I would ring that plate with nice cooked fluffy white rice, put the sauce down, and then lay the fish. Try not to disturb it too much as you're taking it out of the pan because the coconut might fall off, you know. And then just place those fillets on top of the sauce, man. I bet you this would just be a killer dish. I've done this with perch and walleye and sheephead, you know, different fish like that, and it comes out really good.
I remember this with walleye. It was great. It was great. Now you go ahead. I don't want to interrupt.
Okay, when I Googled this, I found out, and if anybody else wants to do it, the suckers are a great addition to these streams. What they do is they jumpstart the nutrients from so many fish being in the water and their eggs and their waste product. It jumpstarts the stream ecosystems. In the Native Americans used the suckers as a great food source. They smoked them, they dried, sun-dried them, whatever they could do to preserve them. And, the sucker gets a bad rap, actually, because, they're the bottom feeder. But so many other fish are bottom feeders. They eat, like the larvae from a lot of different insects. They eat the crawdads on the bottom, the little shrimp, eggs from other fish, canned. You could can them, and they taste every bit as good as canned salmon. You could pickle them, smoke them are great. And I'm going sucker fishing this week, and I'm going to make it a pilgrimage up to the rifle there in Omer and catch me a mess.
Good. Good luck for you, or good luck to you. Have fun, Dave. I appreciate the recipe, and this week, the added biology lesson.
Well, I tried to pass on that knowledge that I got. I was just blown away by all of the information about the sucker run.
And I'm glad you shared it with us, Dave. Always a pleasure. Wild game chef extraordinaire Dave Miner, a big part of the Outdoor Magazine show. But I say this every week. You are too, because if you weren't listening to the show or the podcast version of the show, there would be no reason for me to do this. And I'd be very, very sad. What am I going to do? What else am I going to do? What else do I know how to do? Television, but I don't want to do that anymore. So we've kind of narrowed it down. And I'm getting too old to start something else at this point in my life. So the fact that I can do this with your support over 40 years in broadcasting now means a lot to me. I appreciate it. Check out the website, MikeAveryOutdoors.com, the email, Mike at MikeAveryOutdoors.com, and I'll talk to you next time right here on Outdoor Magazine.